All right. Join the conversation this morning by sending us messages through WhatsApp 0809-444-0981. You can also watch live on YouTube. Type in the search box Smooth FM Lagos to watch and subscribe. Rotus?
Great stuff. Dipo, oil and gas. Dipo, of course, is an oil and gas analyst. Shell has unveiled a new energy business line in Nigeria. It seems that they seem to be focused on gas, but I mean, there's already a Shell Nigeria gas. So why the pivot to Shell Energy Nigeria?
Okay, so good morning, everyone, and good morning to audience as well. So basically, the Shell Energy Nigeria is building on the success of Shell Nigerian Gas. I mean, according to Shell, this is expected to make them deliver competitive, reliable energy for power generation, industrial use, and then to also develop gas distribution to serve new regions. So the idea of Shell Energy Nigeria basically is to look at renewables to move in the global direction of what all other oil multinationals, oil companies are doing in terms of diversifying their investment portfolios, leveraging more on green energy, and Shell as well is just to join that train. So maybe a bit late, but it's quite expected of them, considering the fact that the other competitors are already looking at this direction already.
Great stuff. Is the prospect of renewable energy use in Nigeria, is it a viable one? Is it a real
one? The viability is going to be tested along with time. We can't really say. For now, is it a viable one in Nigeria? Well, the business is highly capital intensive. What other countries are trying to do is they are giving tax waivers to countries who are investing in renewables. They're putting a lot of incentives in place for people to accommodate or to embrace renewables. So for in Nigeria, yeah, maybe we've started. The government is doing a lot in terms of the REA board, a government agency that is set up to look into some of the challenges this aspect of energy is facing. But then how viable it is going to be tested a long time. Will governments put incentives in place? Will there be more sensitization about renewable? Will there be more investment in the sector along the value chain? Because if you look at oil and gas, I mean, the major problem with oil is we are not domesticating the value chain of this process. So for renewables, how viable it is will depend on how able we are able to domesticate the value chain and make sure that we are not just importing or exporting as well. We build local capacity to do everything we need to do in Nigeria. That's when it's going to be viable, and it's going to be tested along a period of time.
In fact, speaking of being tested, I was in Enugu 2 weeks ago for the first time ever. Lovely city. Enugu is known as coal city, right? So we're still very, very much a fossil fuel dependent nation. How do you see resistance to this, to renewables?
Well, just like any new development, I mean, when we are moving away from the Stone Age, I'm sure, the Stone Age did not end because there was no longer stone. It ended because people gradually began to see the need to transit. So it's the same as well. Definitely, there are going to be a bit of resistance, but as time goes on, you would find people embracing it, and then all of a sudden we would get to a generation that would completely embrace renewable. Yeah, I agree with you that coal is. Nigeria is Enugu is known to be a coal city and the rest of it. But then gradually but there will definitely be resistance. But then it will move on as time proceeds.
Now, but see, I'm curious. Sorry, before you continue, right? I'm curious. Yeah. You know how we've lost trust deficit? I mean, the trust deficit has really depleted. That's big English to mean that people don't trust the government as much as they used to or they should. Right. So with all this big speak up by the president saying that, oh yes, we're going to drive energy, Nigeria is going to go green by 2060, pretty much. Is it realistic? He's not going to be president after 2023. Other presidents, what's to say that they're going to follow that, toe that line?
He won't even be alive. He won't be alive.
So, I mean, it sounds nice on paper. It sounds nice saying it into the microphone on speaker, but where are we even showing any signs that we're even thinking towards that line? Because we know, not just myself, we know that a lot of people are benefiting from petrol subsidy and sales and gas and oil exploration. So do you think we're even interested in the first place beyond all this English speak?
So you are very, very correct. So, other countries are putting their money where their mouth is. It's not just going to conferences and declaring bold statements or declaring ambitious 2016. It took us how long to sign a petroleum industry bill? It took us more than since 2001. And now we don't even have a law for climate change. So the way is a regulatory process. Have we kicked off that already? We've not. Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the environmental laws to support some of these things that we need to actually achieve it by 2016? We actually have not. We've not really put beyond just lip service. Nigeria have done absolutely. We've not make use of all our renewable resources well enough. So I think the government should try and put structures in place. So if you're saying you want to achieve net zero by 2060, yes, it's visible, but are there structures in place? Like you said, you are not going to be there forever. 2023 is another election year. So is the institutions are in place that the next administration will build on and say, oh, this is something, and then government is a continuous administration. So every government will start building on what's on ground, but you don't. Beyond that, yes, I think the government is just maybe just jumping on the bandwagon. Everybody is talking, so let's talk.
Yeah, it's popular.
What do you make of the what do you make of the decade of gas plan by the federal government?
Well, the decade of gas plan, it's okay. We moved from a year of gas to a decade of gas. Nigeria has been known to be a gas country, not an oil-rich country, and the rest of it. So, yes, it's okay. But then, just like every other ambitious or good plans in Nigeria, such plans like these are not enough. You need to put in place things that will make the environment conducive to explore gas or to domesticate the value chain of gas in Nigeria. So how viable is Nigeria in this decade of gas plan? Yes, it's good. It's nice. I just wish that we could put more structures in place that will attract private investment, because as at now, we don't consciously drill for gas. All the gas we found now are because we're exploring for oil and then we ended up stumbling on gas. So what we need to do now is to invite investors, tell investors that, look, we have gas, come and explore for gas. Beyond just gas, the midstream of gas, the gas pipelines. Yeah, there's a lot of gas projects going in Nigeria. The AKK project is there. There's this Seplat project as well. And so a couple of them are currently ongoing. And so we just hope that when these projects come into full implementation, when they are up and running, Nigerians will start seeing the benefits of this gas. Because as of now, the price of cooking gas is extremely very high. So if you tell my mother that we are in a decade of gas, she will tell you a decade of gas, and I'm paying
almost
way more for
price. Right? Yeah,
8,000 naira now in more than 8,000 naira now in some locations. So these things, it won't make sense to the average man on the streets if they don't. It doesn't reflect in their purchasing power of gas. That's what I think.
Great stuff. The cooking gas, glad you mentioned what's happening with cooking gas prices. Can we attribute that to what's happening? Because I know gas is priced in dollars. Is that because of what's happening around the world, the whole energy crisis and so
on? Yes, but not basically all. It's not the problem in Nigeria. Is not, can't allude that to what's happening in the global market. So in Nigeria, we have supply shortfall. We have, I think the government should introduce a certain VAT on gas recently. And of course, there's the logistic issues. There's the Naira as well, Naira devaluation as well. So, there are more than 4 or 5 other factors that are affecting the Nigerian domestic market. So you look at supply shortfall as well. Nigeria, yes, we have over 600 trillion qubits in our reserve, but what's the supply like? The market union, the Nigerian Association of LPG Marketers have always complained in recent times that the supply is not what we used to have before. And so we also have issues concerning the introduction of VAT as well. I think 3 or 4 months ago, the government introduced a 7.5% VAT on imported LPG. According to government, they are trying to boost revenue sources. But then you know the thing about taxes. You impose tax, the wholesalers will transfer it to the retailers, and then as at that point you can't really control. And so once there's a bit of scarcity in the market, everybody are not sure when their next supply is going to come. So it leads to a bit of people start. I mean, you can't really hoard gas because the moment you are getting the gas, you need to give it out as well. But at the same time, it's allows for manipulation of prices. And so once there's a manipulation of prices, the prices start skyrocketing. And some of these factors are within our control. Yes, there's the external one outside our control, but the ones within our control, what are we doing in terms of why is the government introducing VAT now? Is it every time is it every move to boost revenue that must lead to, because at the end of the day, government will say is revenue generation. They are trying to boost more money and more. You can't, I mean, it sounds like a good jingle, but then the multiplier effect is going to have on the retailers. So that's it.
And very quickly, as we move towards Christmas, I mean, it's November already. Today's November 3rd. So Christmas is next month. Can't believe 2021 is over. Can you see prices increasing further as we get closer to the festive, season?
Yes. Yeah, it's will. There are chances that Nigerians will have to pay more. I mean, sadly, because the thing about festive season is there are always higher demands during festive seasons. So do we have what it takes to, when supply is not equating demand, these are the kind of things it's going to curse. So why is the government not removing these VAT, for instance? Now, we look at logistic issues as well. Why is Nigeria having issues at the ports regarding LPG vessels and the rest of it? I mean, you just feel that in a decade of gas, the LPG vessels at the Apapa port should not be having problem as at this point. But it's still, those are challenges that are still there. And so when you look at the exchange rate as well, the exchange rate moved from 379 to 410 not recently, like the last move in May. So all of these factors are things that don't look like they are going to be solved soon. So the only sign that it might stop is if the government announces that, we are postponing or we are removing the VAT on gas, or we are doing, government just putting a policy in place. But now the government is not really looking in that direction, and Nigerians are basically we just hope and pray that although the Association of LPG have called on their members to try their best to moderate the prices, but then it's just appeal, moral persuasions, basically, and those things sometimes they don't really matter when it comes to real market prices.
Inshallah. Mm-hmm. Thank you, man.
Stuff.
It's about the size of the show this morning. Dipo Oladehinde, you've been a fantastic guest this morning. Thank you so much.
Great stuff.
Thank you for the insights.
Rotus. Thanks.
Is that Rotus?
I saw Dipo, thank you so much.
I don't know if Dipo saw the PJ picture or photo of Rotus or the private jet. It's got nuclear.
That was.
I saw it, right?
What did you think when you did?
Rotus is a big man.
Yeah, exactly.
He dies in
the Thanks, guys.
I want to be like him when I grow up.
Yes, that's the aspiration. Have a fun day, bro.